Now, the Prophet stayed there in Quba for 5 days. And then he sent to Bani al-Najjar. And they are his uncles from his mother's side. And they came to protect the Prophet ﷺ. They sent 100 of their armed men to accompany the Prophet ﷺ when he enters Medina. They came to him, and also Usama ibn Zayd and his mother Ayman. They all caught up with the Prophet ﷺ in Medina. Now, the Prophet stayed there in Quba for 5 days. And then he sent to Bani al-Najjar. And they are his uncles from his mother's side. And they came to protect the Prophet ﷺ. They sent 100 of their armed men to accompany the Prophet ﷺ when he enters Medina. They came and they went with the Prophet ﷺ in a convoy that was very nice to look at. 100 men in their arms protecting this man and his companion Abu Bakr. May Allah be pleased with him. They set off on Friday, but Friday prayer caught up with them in the middle of the way. So the Prophet ﷺ prayed with those who were with him in an area where they have now a masjid called Masjid al-Wadi, the mosque of the valley. And then they went on to Medina. Now, the minute the Prophet ﷺ entered Medina, Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, the servant of the Prophet ﷺ, said that everything lit, literally, when the Prophet came to Medina the first day. And everything, the whole world, turned into darkness when he passed away. So he gives the comparison of when he came in and when he died, the Prophet ﷺ. And this was in the hearts of the believers, because they've anticipated this moment all of their lives. He was the man that Allah Almighty guided them with to this beautiful religion. It was he who took them with the grace of Allah from the darkness into the light. So the minute he walked in to Medina, every single house was praying, was wishing, and was hoping that the Prophet would come and stay with them, because it's an honor second to none. So the Prophet ﷺ, whenever some of his companions took the rope of the camel he was riding on to guide that to his house, he would say, leave the camel, because Allah Azza wa Jal ordered that camel to do what it was told to do. So they left the camel. And it's a habit, it's a sunnah, that the Muslims used to call their ride with names. So the Prophet used to call his sword Dhul Faqar. The Prophet used to call ﷺ his camel, and the name of the camel was Al-Qaswa. And
which means,
it's a name. It's just a name. So if someone's name is Ali, for example, it might have a meaning. But some names are just names. You call a city Jeddah or Cairo or London, it's a name. And also he had a mule that's called Juljul. So, and some dresses he used to name. So there are names and different names to things that he used to use, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I believe that we have a short break, so inshallah stay tuned, and inshallah we will be right back. Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam entering Medina. So everyone of the companions wanted to have the honor of hosting the Prophet alaihi salatu wasallam in his house. And the Prophet told them, leave the camel, because it knows where to stay. It was ordered by Allah Azza wa Jal. So the camel went to the current location of the mosque, It went a little bit forward, and then it went back again, and the camel stayed there. So the Prophet ﷺ knew that this was the location and this was the place. One of the companions ﷺ was Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. And because his house was a bit close to the area, so without asking anyone, he took the luggage of the Prophet ﷺ and took it inside his house. He didn't consult anyone, because you have to seize the opportunity. If you wait, you're going to lose it. So the minute he went in, the people of the companions around the Prophet, each ﷺ requested that they have the honor of hosting him, because their house is closer. So he said, well, a man follows his luggage. So Abu Ayyub took the luggage, I have to follow him. So he went and stayed with Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, may Allah be pleased with him. Abu Ayyub had a house that had 2 floors. So he insisted that the Prophet ﷺ stays in the upper floor. And the Prophet told him ﷺ that it is more convenient for my companions and myself that I stay at the ground floor, so that would be accessing me would be much easier than if I were to be in the 2nd floor. And Abu Ayyub had to agree at the beginning. And in one incident, when the Prophet stayed at the ground floor and he was with his family on the top, they spilled some water on the floor. And they started putting all the clothes they had on that spot of water so that it would not leak on the Prophet ﷺ. They were afraid that a single drop would irritate the Prophet ﷺ dropping from the ceiling. And you just can imagine the love they had to the Prophet ﷺ, to the extent that not even one single drop they wanted to fall on him.
Sheikh, I want you to tell us about the story, because I heard the story that the Prophet ﷺ, how he make the companions feel familiar with each other when they come to the Medina. I heard the story about companion Abdul Rahman and Sa'd ibn Rabi'a. And Sa'd ibn Rabi'a said to Abdul Rahman, come and you can have a look to one of my 2 wives, and you can take one of them and you can share my money.
Yeah, this was mentioned earlier, and we spoke that the Prophet ﷺ, when he went to Medina, he had a problem, because all of the companions that migrated from Mecca, they've left, or they were forced to leave all their possessions. So they did not take any of their wealth, they did not have the chance to sell any of their property. So they came without anything. They were literally broke. So the only way for them to share a decent life was to be compensated by the people of Medina. Having said that, the people of Medina themselves were not stingy people. They were generous believers. So they came to the Prophet ﷺ and told him, O Prophet of Allah, our farms, our palm trees, half of it to you and to your companions. Imagine giving half of what you own to strangers. Yet the Prophet did not approve of that. So they told him, okay, how about if our brothers work in our farms as farmers, and we split the fruit, the harvest together between us.